Hello everyone. Let me ask you something that might feel uncomfortably familiar. Have you ever looked at your wife and felt like she was there with you, but not really with you? Her body is in the room, but her attention, her warmth, her laughter, it feels like it's drifting further away. Maybe the conversations are shorter, the intimacy less frequent, the spark that once defined your connection now just a faint memory. And in those quiet moments you wonder what happened to us. This is not just about her being busy with work or tired from daily life. It's not only about routine, it's about something deeper, something that happens silently, gradually until one day you wake up and realize the person you love most feels distant. And here's the truth. When a woman begins to pull away, it's rarely about what she says on the surface. It's almost always about what she feels inside, the unspoken, the unmet, the unnoticed. In this video, we're going to explore the real reason your wife may be pulling away. Not the easy excuses, not the cliches, but the intimate human truth that lives in the space between love and longing. And as we talk, you'll begin to see not only what may be happening in her heart, but also what you can do to bridge that distance before it becomes too wide. I want you to picture a moment. It's late evening. The children are asleep. The dishes are stacked in the sink. The television hums in the background. And you turn to look at your wife. You notice she's scrolling on her phone, or maybe staring blankly at the ceiling, lost in her thoughts. You want to reach for her, maybe spark a conversation, maybe even just rest your hand gently on hers. But something stops you. It's not fear. Not exactly. It's more like a quiet awareness that she feels far away. You can sense the distance. Not physical, but emotional. And in that moment, you ask yourself, when did we become strangers in our own home? This feeling is more common than most men dare to admit. We talk so much about women withdrawing, about wives pulling away, but we rarely pause to ask why. Why does the person who once couldn't wait to see you, touch you, share every little detail of her day with you, now seem guarded, tired, or unavailable? The easy answer, the one people will often hand you, is that marriage just gets dull, or that all couples lose passion over time. But that's not the real answer. That's not the answer your heart is looking for, because deep down you know it's possible to stay connected, to stay alive with desire and intimacy, even after decades together. What fades is not love itself, but attention. What withers is not passion, but the care that nurtures it. So let's start there with attention. You see, in the early days of a relationship, attention flows effortlessly. You're curious about her. You notice the small details, the way she tucks her hair behind her ear, the words she chooses when she's nervous, the sparkle in her eye when she's excited. You ask questions. You listen, you lean in, and she feels it. She feels seen, chosen, cherished. But over time, comfort settles in, routines take over. The questions fade. You already know her, or at least you think you do. And so the attention shifts from her to the bills, to work, to the children, to the never-ending list of responsibilities. Slowly, without even realizing it, she becomes less of the woman you're fascinated by and more of the partner you coordinate life with. And here's what most men don't realize: women begin to pull away when they feel unseen. Not unloved, unseen. Love, after all, can exist without attention. You may love her deeply, you may work hard to provide, to protect, to stay committed, but without presence, without that living, breathing awareness of who she is in this very moment, love becomes invisible to her. Imagine for a moment you buy her a beautiful gift, expensive, thoughtful, wrapped in silver paper, but she's been longing for you to simply sit down and ask, how are you really? One gesture costs money, the other costs time. And while she may thank you for the gift, her heart aches for the moment of true recognition. Attention is the currency of intimacy, and when it runs low, a woman's spirit begins to close. But attention alone is not enough. Let's go a little deeper. Another powerful reason wives pull away is emotional disconnection. You see, women are often the emotional barometers of a relationship. They carry, consciously or not, the task of maintaining intimacy, of nurturing the invisible thread between two people. But when that thread is tugged too hard, when it becomes one-sided or frays under the weight of neglect, she begins to retreat. Maybe she's told you, you don't listen to me anymore. Or maybe she hasn't said a word, but you can feel it in her sighs, in the way she withdraws mid-conversation, in the way her body stiffens when you reach for her. What she is craving is not grand declarations. She doesn't need you to promise the moon. What she needs is your willingness to step into her world, not to fix, not to judge, but to witness. Think about it. When was the last time you asked your wife not just, how was your day, but what's weighing on your mind right now? When was the last time you let her speak without interrupting, without turning her words into a problem to be solved? Most men don't realize this, but listening, truly listening, is one of the most erotic acts in long-term love. It says, I care about your inner world. I am here for the parts of you no one else gets to see. And here's the thing. When a woman doesn't feel emotionally safe, she cannot feel sexually open. When her words fall into silence, her body follows. This is why so many men are confused when intimacy fades. They think it's about attraction, about physicality, about time. But in reality, desire is rooted in connection. And when that connection weakens, so does her longing. Now, let's talk about something more uncomfortable. Because while lack of attention and emotional disconnection are central, there's another truth we need to face. Many women pull away because they feel unappreciated. In the rhythm of daily life, appreciation is often the first casualty. We assume she knows. We assume she understands. We assume that because we're still here, still working, still providing, she must know she's valued. But here's what I've learned: assumptions kill intimacy. Silence breeds distance. Appreciation is not about empty compliments. It's about recognition of effort, acknowledgement of the invisible labor that so often goes unnoticed. The meals she prepares, the emotional support she gives, the countless ways she keeps the home and you functioning. When those things are not seen, she begins to feel like her role is mechanical, transactional, rather than sacred. And slowly, resentment builds. Not the loud, explosive kind. The quiet kind, the kind that makes her smile less, laugh less, touch less. The kind that makes her retreat into her own world, because in that world at least she feels like she matters. This, my friends, is how distance begins, not with a sudden betrayal, not with one catastrophic fight, but with the slow erosion of attention, of emotional connection, of appreciation. And when those three begin to fade, a woman starts to protect herself. She pulls back. She closes the doors of her heart, not because she wants to, but because she doesn't feel safe leaving them open. And here's the most painful part: she still loves you. She may still long for you, but love is not enough when it is not nurtured. Affection withers in silence. Passion dies without recognition. So if you're noticing the distance, if you're sensing her pulling away, don't rush to fix it with surface gestures. Don't think a quick trip, or a dinner out, or a bouquet of flowers will erase years of quiet neglect. Begin instead with presence. Begin with listening. Begin with appreciation, because the truth is, she's not pulling away to hurt you. She's pulling away to protect herself. And when you understand that, you begin to see that the real work of love is not in winning her back. It's in rebuilding the bridge she's been quietly walking away from. When we think about distance in a relationship, it's tempting to frame it as a problem that exists only in the present moment. You notice her pulling away today, and so you search for what's changed recently. Maybe work has been overwhelming. Maybe the kids have been taking all her time. Maybe she's just stressed, and yes, these things matter. But distance rarely begins today. It builds over months, sometimes years, until one day the gap becomes undeniable. And one of the quietest architects of this distance is neglecting the difference between partnership and intimacy. Many men confuse the two. You can be an excellent partner in the business of life, paying bills, fixing things around the house, helping with chores, and still be absent as a lover, as an intimate companion. This is one of the great paradoxes of marriage. In the beginning, you fall in love with the person. Later, you manage life with the partner. But what a woman yearns for is not only a partner she can rely on. It's a man who makes her feel alive. And when that aliveness fades, when the partnership becomes purely functional, she begins to retreat into herself. Think about it. How many of your daily interactions with your wife revolve around logistics? Can you pick up milk? What time is your meeting? Who's dropping the kids off tomorrow? These conversations are necessary, of course, but when they dominate the relationship, something vital gets lost. The relationship becomes a calendar rather than a connection, and she feels it. She feels that the woman who once excited you, who once inspired you, has now become simply the person you manage life with. That's when she starts to pull away, not because she doesn't love you, but because she doesn't feel the spark of being desired, of being pursued, of being seen as more than the co-manager of your shared responsibilities. Now let's step even deeper. Another powerful reason women pull away is because they feel emotionally overburdened. In so many households, even in modern marriages, women carry what we call the mental load. It's not just about physical tasks, it's about the constant invisible management of everything. Remembering birthdays, planning meals, noticing when the laundry detergent is running out, organizing family events, managing the children's schedules. It's the weight of thinking, anticipating, preparing. And here's the truth. When a woman feels she's carrying the mental and emotional weight of the household alone, she doesn't have much left to give. She withdraws. Not because she wants to, but because she's exhausted. Exhaustion is one of the greatest intimacy killers. You cannot expect her to be emotionally available, sexually open, or romantically inspired if she is drowning in responsibilities that she feels you don't even notice. Many men hear this and respond defensively: but I work hard too. I provide. I carry the financial load. And that's true, and it matters. But emotional labor is not the same as financial labor. One doesn't cancel out the other. What your wife longs for is not a man who provides only financially, but one who notices, who shares, who lightens the invisible weight she carries every day. Now let's talk about desire itself, because this is where many men feel the sting most sharply. They notice she's less affectionate, less physically open, less sexually engaged. They wonder if she's lost attraction, if she's changed, if she no longer wants them. But here's what's crucial to understand: desire doesn't just disappear, it transforms. And often it's smothered not by lack of attraction, but by lack of space. Let me explain. In long-term relationships, especially in marriages with children and heavy responsibilities, intimacy often gets crowded out. There's no room for spontaneity, no time for playfulness, no space for the erotic energy that once flowed so naturally. Everything is structured, everything is predictable, and desire doesn't thrive in predictability. Desire thrives in curiosity, in surprise, in moments where two people step outside of routine and rediscover each other. So when your wife pulls away, it's not always because she doesn't want you. Sometimes it's because the conditions that once allowed her to desire you no longer exist. She is tired, she is burdened, she is unseen, and she is uninspired. And so she protects herself. She closes the door on intimacy, not because she doesn't love you, but because she doesn't feel the space where that love could be expressed with passion. And here's another truth that stings, but is necessary. Sometimes women pull away because they no longer recognize the man they fell in love with. Not because you've failed, not because you've changed for the worse, but because life has stripped away the qualities that once made you magnetic to her. The ambition, the energy, the humor, the mystery, the pursuit. Over time, men often become more predictable, more stable. And while stability is comforting, it can also feel stifling if it replaces excitement. What drew her to you in the beginning was not only your reliability, it was your edge, your confidence, your playfulness, your drive. When those qualities fade, when she feels like she's living with a shadow of the man she once knew, she retreats, not out of cruelty, but out of longing. She wants to feel that spark again, but she can't carry it for both of you. So what's the lesson here? That when your wife begins to pull away, it's not always about what she doesn't feel for you. It's about what she no longer feels inside herself in your presence. That is the subtle, painful truth. Women long for a connection that makes them feel alive, feminine, cherished, inspired. When that feeling fades, she closes the doors, not just to you, but to parts of herself. And the tragedy is that so many men misinterpret this distance. They take it personally. They respond with anger, with defensiveness, with withdrawal of their own. They think, if she doesn't want me, why should I try? And the gap grows wider. But what if instead of reacting, you pause to reflect? What if you looked at her distance not as rejection, but as a signal that the connection is starving, that her soul is asking for something more? Not bigger gifts, not louder promises, but deeper presence, shared responsibility, renewed desire. Because the real reason your wife pulls away is rarely about you being unworthy. It's about her feeling that she is no longer the woman she wants to be in your presence. And when you understand that, you stop asking, why doesn't she love me anymore? And you start asking, how can we create the conditions where love can breathe again? This shift changes everything. It moves you from fear to curiosity, from blame to responsibility, from despair to possibility. And it opens the door to something so many couples never rediscover: the ability to not only stay together, but to fall in love again over and over in new ways. When we talk about a wife pulling away, the first instinct for many men is to either chase harder or to give up entirely. Some begin overcompensating, lavish gifts, sudden bursts of affection, promises to change. Others retreat into silence, telling themselves, fine, if she doesn't want me, I'll stop trying. Both of these reactions are born from fear, and fear rarely creates intimacy. Intimacy is not built in a panic. It is not repaired by guilt. It is rebuilt by presence, by a return to curiosity, by remembering that your wife is not only your partner, she is a living, evolving human being with a world inside of her that you have the privilege to rediscover. So the first step in closing that gap is shifting from defensiveness to curiosity. Instead of asking, why is she doing this to me? Begin asking, what is happening inside her that I have not seen? This question opens doors. It takes you out of the posture of accusation and places you in the posture of wonder. Let me give you an example. Imagine she comes home after a long day, distant, quiet. Your instinct may be to take it personally. She doesn't want to talk to me. She's shutting me out. But if you enter with curiosity instead, you might gently ask, you seem a little far away tonight. Do you want to share what's on your mind? And then you listen, not to fix, not to argue, not to turn the conversation back to yourself. You listen simply to understand. Curiosity softens walls. When a woman feels you are truly interested in her inner world, she begins to open again, not instantly, not magically, but slowly. Because curiosity communicates something deeper than love. It communicates, you still matter to me. I still want to know you. But curiosity alone is not enough. You must also cultivate presence. Presence means you are not half with her and half with your phone. It means you don't just hear her words, but absorb the feeling underneath them. It means when she looks at you, she doesn't see a man distracted by 1,000 things. She sees a man who is rooted, grounded, attentive. Presence is erotic. Presence is healing. Presence tells her, you are safe with me. I see you, and from presence flows appreciation, not the lazy, generic kind, not thanks for everything you do, but the precise, thoughtful recognition that makes her feel the invisible weight she carries has been noticed. Thank you for handling the school meeting today. I know it wasn't easy, and I appreciate you taking that on. I noticed how much effort you put into dinner, even though you were exhausted. That means a lot. I don't say this enough, but the way you take care of our family amazes me. Do you see the difference? It's not about rehearsed lines. It's about real noticing. Appreciation reminds her that her existence in your life is not background noise. It is music you still hear. Now, let's talk about desire, because at the heart of many men's worries is this question. Does she still want me? And here is the paradox. Desire is not about constant closeness. It is about space. A woman cannot desire a man who is permanently fused to her, who exists only as her partner in logistics. She desires a man who has a pulse of his own, who brings energy, mystery, vitality into the relationship. Think back to the man you were when she first met you. Not the details, your hairstyle, your clothes, the places you went, but the essence. What qualities did you embody? Confidence, playfulness, a sense of adventure, the willingness to surprise her, to pursue her. Those qualities didn't die. They may have been buried under routine, under stress, under years of survival mode living, but they are not gone. And when you reconnect with those parts of yourself, not to perform for her, but to reclaim your own aliveness, you invite her to rediscover desire too. Desire is not something you demand from your wife. It's something you inspire in her presence. You do this not by pressuring her, not by guilt-tripping her, but by showing up as a man who is still alive, still curious, still capable of sparking her imagination. And here's something we don't talk about enough. Intimacy thrives not only in seriousness, but in playfulness. Couples forget how to play together. Everything becomes heavy. Work, kids, bills, responsibilities. The relationship becomes a boardroom rather than a playground. And yet what first drew you together was often laughter, lightness, spontaneity. Reintroducing play is one of the most powerful antidotes to distance. It could be as simple as teasing her gently, as dancing with her in the kitchen, as planning something unexpected, as creating small rituals that belong only to the two of you. Play says, we are more than co-managers of life. We are still lovers, still partners in joy. And when she sees you bringing that energy, not in a forced way, but in genuine moments of connection, she softens. She remembers. She reopens the doors that routine had closed. Of course, none of this happens overnight. If she's been pulling away for months or years, it will not dissolve in a single conversation, or a weekend trip, or a passionate night together. Reconnection is not an event. It is a practice. A daily practice of presence, curiosity, appreciation, and play. And here's the truth. You cannot control her response. You can only control the man you bring into the relationship each day. If you show up defensive, she will stay guarded. If you show up curious, she may begin to open. If you show up distracted, she will withdraw further. If you show up alive, present, attentive, she will feel it. Even if she doesn't respond immediately, something inside her will register. He's trying. He is here. This is the work of love, not grand gestures, not dramatic ultimatums, but the consistent return to seeing, noticing, and appreciating the person you chose. Because the real reason your wife is pulling away is not that she doesn't love you. It's that she wants to feel alive again in your presence. And the moment you understand that, you stop fighting her distance as rejection and you start welcoming it as an invitation, a painful but honest signal that it's time to bring new energy, new curiosity, new appreciation into your marriage. Trust is such a fragile thing. We think of it only in terms of big betrayals, affairs, lies, broken promises. But in reality, trust is built or broken in the smallest, most ordinary moments. It's in the way you respond when she shares something vulnerable. It's in whether she feels she can lean on you without being judged. It's in the thousands of little interactions where she tests, silently, the question, am I safe with him? When a woman begins to pull away, very often it's because that sense of safety has been eroded. Not always in dramatic ways, but in the subtle ones. Maybe she felt dismissed too many times. Maybe she shared her feelings and you met her with defensiveness. Maybe she needed comfort and you offered solutions instead. Over time, she learns it's easier to keep things inside than to risk not being understood. And so she closes off, not out of malice, but out of self-protection. The irony is that many men experience this withdrawal as rejection and then respond in ways that deepen the gap, anger, distance, withdrawal of their own, and suddenly the marriage becomes a cycle of mutual defense rather than mutual trust. So how do you rebuild trust when it's been worn thin? You begin with consistency. Consistency is love made visible. It's showing up not just when you want intimacy, but in the daily, ordinary spaces where she needs to know she can count on you. It's being reliable not only in what you provide, but in how you listen, how you respond, how you stay present. Imagine she shares a frustration about her day. Your instinct might be to offer a solution. Why don't you just talk to your boss about it? But what if, instead, you looked her in the eyes and said, that sounds really heavy. I can see why you're upset. In that moment, you've chosen empathy over efficiency, and empathy builds trust. Trust is also built through repair. Every couple fights. Every couple hurts each other, but what determines the health of the relationship is not the absence of conflict, it's the presence of repair. Do you circle back after an argument? Do you acknowledge your role, apologize without excuses and invite closeness again? Or do you let wounds fester, hoping time will erase them? When you practice repair, you teach her that conflict is not a threat to love. You teach her that even in hurt, she is safe with you. And when a woman feels safe, she softens. The walls she built begin to lower. Now let's talk about something deeper. Emotional safety in intimacy. For many men, intimacy means sex. For many women, sex is the expression of a deeper intimacy already present. If she feels emotionally unsafe, sex becomes a duty, a performance, or something she avoids altogether. If she feels emotionally safe, sex becomes a gift, a playground, a return to connection. This is why pressuring her for physical intimacy when she is pulling away rarely works. It only reinforces her feeling of being unseen. She doesn't want to be wanted only for her body. She wants to be desired for her whole being. When she feels emotionally cherished, her body follows. And here's a truth that may surprise you. Women crave not only emotional safety, but also excitement. Safety alone is not enough. A relationship can feel safe and still be dull. What she longs for is a balanced security in your presence, an unpredictability in your energy, stability in commitment, and novelty in desire. That is the dance of long-term love. Too much safety without excitement becomes routine. Too much excitement without safety becomes chaos. But when the two are woven together, she feels both grounded and alive. So ask yourself, when was the last time you surprised her? Not with something expensive, but with something thoughtful. When was the last time you created a moment that reminded her she is not only your wife, but your lover? When was the last time you kissed her not out of habit, but out of hunger? Reigniting intimacy is not about waiting for her to change. It is about you daring to change the dance, bringing new energy, new curiosity, new playfulness into the relationship, not as manipulation, but as a way of saying, I see you, I still choose you, and I am willing to create the space where we can come alive together again. And finally, let's speak about vulnerability, because many men were never taught that strength and vulnerability can live together. They believe they must always be composed, always in control, always unshakable. But intimacy requires something different. It requires a willingness to show not only your strength, but also your fears, your longings, your softer edges. When you share vulnerably, not as a burden, but as an opening, you invite her to do the same. You show her that the marriage is not only a place where she gives, but where she also receives. And in that reciprocity, trust is born again. So yes, your wife may be pulling away, but what if you saw that not as the end of love, but as love's plea for renewal? What if instead of panicking, you leaned in? What if instead of asking, why is she rejecting me, you asked, how can we build the kind of trust and intimacy that makes her want to come close again? Because the truth is, most wives don't pull away because they want to leave. They pull away because they want to stay, but they need to feel that staying will nourish them, not deplete them. And you have more power than you realize to create that nourishment, not with grand gestures, but with daily choices. There comes a moment in every marriage when you are forced to choose. Do you keep repeating the same patterns, or do you decide to break them? Do you let the distance grow, hoping it will shrink on its own, or do you take the brave step of turning toward your partner, even if it feels uncertain, even if it feels scary? Because here's the truth, when your wife pulls away, she is not only protecting herself, she is also sending a signal that the relationship as it stands is no longer nourishing her spirit, a signal that the love between you is asking for more attention, more intention, more presence. And if you can hear that signal not as rejection, but as invitation, everything begins to change. Invitation to what? To growth, to becoming a better listener, a more present partner, a man who doesn't just assume love will survive on its own, but tends to it like a garden. Love doesn't die because of big storms. It dies because no one remembered to water it. So where do you begin? You begin where all great love stories begin, with awareness. Awareness of your own patterns. Awareness of the places where you've grown distant. Awareness of the habits that once kept you close but have been lost to routine. This awareness is not about shame. It's about responsibility. The kind of responsibility that doesn't weigh you down but lifts you up, because it reminds you that you still have the power to choose differently. And after awareness comes action. Not the kind of frantic, desperate action that tries to win her back in a week, but the slow, steady action that proves you are present for the long haul. A gentle touch on her back as you pass by. A curious question asked not to get information, but to enter her world. A moment of playfulness that interrupts the monotony of the day. A word of appreciation that makes her feel noticed. Over time, these small acts accumulate. They rebuild trust. They reignite desire. They restore the sense that the relationship is not just surviving but alive. And as she feels that aliveness again, she begins to lean back in. Not because you forced her, but because you created the space where closeness could naturally return. But let me also be honest, this journey requires courage. It requires you to confront your own fears. The fear of rejection, the fear of not being enough, the fear of making changes that might feel vulnerable. Courage in love is not about never being afraid. It's about acting with tenderness even when you are afraid. Imagine what would happen if, instead of shutting down, you chose to open up. If instead of reacting with anger when she pulled away, you leaned in with compassion, if instead of asking, what's wrong with her, you asked, how can I show up differently? These shifts may seem small, but they are revolutionary. They change the atmosphere of the marriage from one of defense to one of connection. And here's the most beautiful part: as you begin to shift, she will feel it. Even if she doesn't say it right away, even if her guard remains up for a while, she will feel it. Because energy cannot be hidden. Presence cannot be faked. When you show up as a man who is awake to love again, she will sense it. And slowly, the door she closed will begin to open. Now, let's look further down the road. Because this is not only about saving a marriage that feels distant. It's about creating a marriage that feels alive. Even decades in. Imagine sitting with her 20 years from now. The kids are grown. The house is quieter. The responsibilities have shifted. What will you want to remember? The fights, the routines, or the moments where you turn toward each other again and again, refusing to let love become invisible? Because in the end, intimacy is not about never drifting apart. Every couple drifts. Life pulls you in different directions. The test of intimacy is not whether you drift, it's whether you return. And every time you return, you strengthen the bond. You show her and yourself that love is not something that happens once in the past. It is something you choose daily in the present. So if your wife is pulling away, let this be the moment you choose to return. Return to curiosity, return to presence, return to appreciation, return to playfulness, return to trust. Not in a single grand gesture, but in the steady rhythm of showing up again and again with love. And as you do, remember this: women don't pull away because they want less love. They pull away because they want more. More intimacy, more connection, more aliveness. And when you understand that, you stop fearing the distance and you start embracing it as the very thing that can bring you closer than ever before. So here's my invitation to you. Take one small step today. Ask her a question you haven't asked in years. Listen without interrupting. Notice something she did and thank her for it. Create one playful moment, however small. Choose one act of presence that tells her, I see you. Do it not as a strategy to get her back, but as an offering of love. Because love is not about perfection. It's about showing up. It's about being willing to learn, to grow, to keep choosing each other even when it's hard. And if you do that slowly, patiently, consistently, you will find that the woman you thought was pulling away was not leaving you. She was waiting for you to show her that love is still alive. So lean in, be brave, choose love, not fear. And remember, the greatest romance is not the one you had at the beginning. It is the one you create every day with the person who still stands beside you.